After one of the biggest jailbreaks in state history and a cyber attack, the future of the jail is in limbo. Who will lead a new chapter of public safety in the city? Who earns your vote? WDSU's Orleans Parish Sheriff Debate starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to the debate between the major candidates running for Orleans Parish Sheriff. I'm Travers Mackall. Early voting is underway and we want to make sure that you have all of your questions answered before you cast your ballot. So we invited the incumbent and challengers tonight who met several criteria from social media presence, campaign staff, and a campaign contribution threshold as of September 1st. Those candidates are Sheriff Susan Hudson, Edwin Shorty, and Michelle Woodfork. All are Democrats. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for joining us. All answers are going to be 60 seconds. We did draw straws. Coincidentally, it came out in alphabetical order. So Sheriff Hudson, you have 60 seconds to answer our first question. All three of you all will get this question. Your campaign websites did not appear to lay out a clear plan or promises to voters. In 60 seconds, Sheriff, what are your top priorities to win this office?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson. I'm number one on the ballot, and I'm the People's Sheriff. And I'm the People's Sheriff because I have kept my promises to the people that I made when I ran for sheriff. I told you I'd invest in people and community and culture, and I've done that. We started with our deputies, 2 raises that they never had for 5 years before I got into office. Life-saving equipment they didn't have, like radios in the jail and ballistic vests on the streets. We've also made sure that we take care of those in our custody. We make sure that we have mental health and addiction treatment, as well as job training and education. I promised the people this, I'm keeping those promises. But I also support this community and culture every day with red beans, tents, and reserve deputies that uphold this culture and uphold what makes this city so special. I'm Susan Hudson, number one on the ballot, the People's Sheriff.
Mr. Shorty, you have 60 seconds. What are your priorities?
Principal priority is to make sure our citizens are safe and that we do things to increase the quality of life for our everyday citizens. We know that the New Orleans Police Department is shorthanded, and they're going to be shorthanded for the foreseeable future. So my plan is to make sure that deputies can assist with traffic stops. Every time I'm driving around New Orleans, no one's stopping at stop signs, no one's stopping at red lights. We've got to do something to curtail this lawless behavior. Additionally, our city is filled with trash. We can have inmates clean up the trash. We can have inmates take the areas of graffiti, spray paint those areas and get them cleaned up. We can have inmates clean out storm drains, tear down blighted property. We know we've got problems, but these problems are fixable. Public safety is a priority, and we've got to make sure that the jailhouse doors are locked and that they remain locked so all of our citizens are safe, and that we work collaboratively with all of our law enforcement partners to make sure that the jail is safe and our community is safe.
Ms. Woodfork, in 60 seconds, what are your priorities?
My priority is to do what I've always done, to protect the citizens of this city, to bring public safety to our citizens, the things that they deserve most, and that's a safe jail. And for public safety, to make sure that we're looking at the budget at the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, make sure we're looking at staffing, the facility at the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. The question was, what are you going to do to bring, what are your priorities for the jail? And my priorities is to make it a safe and secure jail, make sure that people who are supposed to be inside the jail stay inside the jail. But in order to do that, you have to have sufficient staffing. You have to have sufficient staffing and you have to have a budget. And in order to get the budget that you need, you have to work in collaboration with the city council to make sure that you're getting the funds that you need in order to run this jail properly. And those are going to be my priorities. Safety of this city, the safety for people inside and working at the jail, and making sure those who are supposed to be in jail stay in jail.
Speaking of the budget, Mr. Shorty, we're going to start this question with you. Viewers have told us over and over again, their top question for all of you all is preventing another jailbreak. We all know Derek Groves is still on the run. In 60 seconds, what is the first thing you do to secure the jail that will not cost any more money, considering the sheriff's budget is the biggest it's been since Hurricane Katrina?
We've got to look at technology. We've got to look at ways that we can use cameras to make sure that those areas where we've got deficiencies, where we've got locks and we've got faulty situations relative to the actual facility are covered by cameras and covered by technology. That's something that's very easy to do. That's something that's reasonable. And that's something that I think you can go to the city council and say, if you need additional funding, you can get additional funding. That's something that you can also go to your state partners and federal partners and say, look, if I need additional funding, these are the problems that I think we can fill. If the problem is that the sheriff is saying she doesn't have enough money, we've got to look at what she spent money on. And that's probably why the city council doesn't want to give additional money. If you're wasting money on hotel rooms for Mardi Gras and stuff like that, then folks don't feel that you're a good steward of the funds that you've got, so they don't want to give you additional funds.
Well, we'll get back, Ms. Woodfork, we'll get to you. Since he mentioned you, Sheriff, by name, do you want to address that really quickly on how you spend money?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Mr. Shorty may not know, because he has not studied with this job or the consent judgment, is that we meet with the City Council's Budget Committee chair and the CAO's office about our budget and what we're spending, and the majority of that are salaries, and that's for every public safety agency. So that was misdirection there, trying to talk about Mardi Gras rooms and not talk about the $900 million I saved from Mardi Gras by coming in and bringing in 400 deputies.
All right, we'll come back to you. Ms. Woodfork, let's go back to that question. What is the first thing you do to secure the jail that will not cost any more money, considering the sheriff's budget is the biggest it's been since Katrina, in 60 seconds?
Day one, you have to do a complete forensic audit of the budget. Make sure we're not wasting and mismanaging money. Cut the fat and put the money where it needs to be. We need to give these deputies that work there an increase in salary. That's important. In order to recruit and retain those people, we have to have an increase in salary. And so you have to look at the budget, make sure we're not spending it on wasteful things, make sure we're cutting the fat, and make sure we're working with the city council in order to get the funds that we need. It's going to take a collaborative effort with the city council and our criminal justice partners to see exactly what we need to make this jail safe and also a fiscally sound facility.
All right. Sheriff, in 60 seconds, same question for you. If re-elected, your budget last year was $64 million, the most since Katrina. What's the first thing you do to secure the jail without asking for more money?
The first thing the community has to understand, there's a little bit more to it. When I got into office, we were 3 years behind in state-mandated audits. Nobody in the city council talked about that. Nobody talked about that great faux pas that went on from the prior administration. We had to do our audits first to find out what was going on. We've been able to catch up 3 years of state-mandated audits, which are open to anybody in the public to see. But I've also came in, and the great let-out occurred because I was transparent. I told everybody for 3 years, we have to fix what's broken in here. I went to capital budgets. I went to the city council's budget. I got no money for more deputies or to fix what's broken. So I started doing it myself before the great let-out occurred. But you know what? Time caught up with us. Everybody has to be accountable for their role in that.
So in about 30 seconds, when you say the great let-out, what do you mean by that? Because I think most people would call that a jailbreak.
Yeah, except if you're not listening. Because what I told you was that there's no way to get out of the Orleans Justice Center except with help. And that's what happened. We've caught one of them, but there are others who are going to come behind them. Wait for that. It's coming. But what we know is that there's no way to get out. There are multiple doors, no way to get out. So they removed toilets and cut bars to be able to let people get out. The only way to get to those were people who worked in the organization. What I promise this community is I'm accountable for it, but so will all of them be.
All right, let out is your term, not jailbreak. We're going to start this question with you. We're going to play a soundbite here really quickly because let me point this out. These two opponents are not really attacking you. Many analysts feel that you're an underdog despite being the incumbent. You told us something on May 16th. We're going to play it and let you listen to it here.
Why did it happen just right now, right? In the middle, as we're getting ready to start this sheriff's race. This is very suspicious. We know that they had help. We're showing you they had help. This was coordinated. There's much more than meets the eye.
What exactly do you mean by that?
I just mentioned that, Travis. They had inside help, and there was a plot to get there. And we're going to show that. I can't wait till I'm able to do that, but of course, we have to follow all the law and make sure we have an airtight case. But it's coming. I promise you that. And yeah, I told you that because this is what happened. I invited the entire media in, including WDSU, to see the jail before the millage so you can see what was wrong and what needed to be fixed. I did that. I was transparent about that. And people were excited about voting for the millage and trusting me to get that money to fix what was broken. We have all that momentum going. People are excited. Hey, they were telling me it was me and my wife or me and my child who helped bringing the millage over. People are excited about what we were doing and the work that we're doing. So something had to be done to break that momentum. I promise you, sheriff's offices are political offices. And when I walk the streets and I talk to the people of the city, you may not know it, but they know there was a conspiracy there.
So I hate to ask this because, look, we don't want to throw conspiracies out there. You called it a plot. It has been 4.5 months. A plot by who?
Those who work in the office. You know, we've already arrested one of them. Did you miss that? We did arrest one of them, but he was not the mastermind. And there's much more to it. But we have 900 cameras, and there are 1,400 tablets. We have to go through all of this intelligence and information to be able to pull out what we need to be able to prosecute people. And I promise you, we will, and we're going to hold everyone accountable, and we're also going to get him back into cuffs.
All right, Ms. Woodfork, we're going to start this question with you, then we're going to go with you, Mr. Shorty. The sheriff's responsible for the care, control, and custody of inmates. But let's look at some of your recent ads. We're going to play those really quickly here.
When New Orleans calls out for help, too often it shows up too late. And sometimes no one shows up at all.
She's the only candidate who can deliver results and fix our jail, because she's the only one who's done it before.
So, Mr. Shorty, it seems like you're alluding to police response times, and Ms. Woodfork, it seems like you're alluding to your time, 30 years with the NOPD. But OPSO is not the main policing agency in the city. It's New Orleans Police. You run a jail. You don't solve murders. You don't even give speeding tickets. The NOPD does all that. So we'll start this with you in 60 seconds. Why are you trying to make it seem like it's more about public safety than administration?
This is about public safety, definitely, because we have to make sure that the jail is a secure facility. So it is about, securing the public. It's about management. It's about competent management. It's about leadership. And that is what I'm alluded to in my commercial when I say I'm the only one who's done it before. I'm the only candidate that's ran a large law enforcement agency. This is a law enforcement agency with over 1,250 people, a budget of $166 million, and been successful at it. We got crime down 25%. We got carjackings down 45%, and we tripled officer recruitment. And that came from a strategic plan that I authored and put in place, and they're still using that plan today. And right now, the city is at a historic 50-year low as far as crime is concerned. And it is the duty of the sheriff to help bring crime down by helping those people who are inside with those second and third chances, getting them the tools and resources that they need, substance abuse, mental health services, job skill trainings. So when they go out, they're viable citizens. They're not going out creating more crimes, committing more crimes, and bringing our recidivism rate down, and also keeping crime down.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shorty. Same question for you. Why do the ads make it seem like it's more about public safety than administration in your ads?
Look, this is all about public safety. The public didn't feel safe when we saw 10 people run out the front door to jail. The public knows that they're at risk because a murderer is running loose in our city. So this job is about public safety. And we've got to do everything we can to work together to make sure that we assist the NOPD. We know that the NOPD is tasked with the primary role of law enforcement in this city. But what can we do to help? Not just say that's their responsibility and we're not going to worry about it, we're just going to focus on the jail. The sheriff has a number of responsibilities, not just the jail, but making sure that the jail is secure, making sure that all of the civil subpoenas go out on time, making sure that evictions happen. The sheriff has a breadth of responsibilities, and we've got to make sure that all of those are done, but all of those go into public safety. Making sure that inmates get to court timely is about public safety, to make sure that they get their day in court, and if they're innocent, they get released. If they're guilty, they get their time. So this entire campaign is about public safety.
All right, we asked the sheriff a question about her language with let out there for a second. Sure. Well,
follow up on this one. I have something
please,
to
go
say
ahead about
that
30.
as well.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead really quickly.
Yeah, to be clear, there's only 3 people who understand the weight of running a jail in the city: Sheriff Fody, Sheriff Gusman, and Sheriff Hudson. The lives of 350 people who work in that jail, the lives of the 1,400 in our custody who don't like each other, who are trying to kill each other on the streets, and we're trying to keep them safe in there. Understaffed, undermanned, and underfunded, and overpopulated. The men and women of this department have taken on everything I've asked them to do. We just don't have enough people, and we don't have the equipment. The facility itself needs to be fixed to keep it safe.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to start this off with you, Ms. Woodfork. It's public record that you've had complaints with NOPD. How can you assure the public that those problems are in the rear view and that you won't have any issues moving forward if elected sheriff?
Look, those incidents happened 22 years ago. I was disciplined. I served those disciplines, and it did not stop me from matriculating throughout the New Orleans Police Department. I was vetted each and time I was promoted to sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and ultimately vetted by the IACP and became the interim superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department. We, my opponents want to keep harping on those, slinging mud, having attack ads, but it's definitely true. None of those things stopped me from becoming the superintendent, and I did a great job at it. The results are in. You see crime is down. You saw what I did as the police chief. And so those things are in my past. I learned from them. I taught from them. I mentored people who work with me and for me with them. And so I don't think it's of no consequence. And I'm sure each of my opponents have things in their past that I'm not going to mention and that they won't mention.
All right, let's start this question with you, Mr. Shorty. Speaking of things, you allow your constables, your deputy constables, to work details across the city even though you only represent Algiers. Is that a money grab for your office and those officers? And how would you handle OPSO off-duty details, which have been controversial in the past? You have 60 seconds.
We do it because they're state licensed and they can do it within the jurisdiction of the city of New Orleans. And I would handle it the same way that we handle at the constable's office, at the sheriff's office. We would allow deputies to work details that are approved. There's some approvals that we're a little tighter with relative to ABOs, but the deputies work their details. We monitor their training. We cover them in insurance, and then they give me a certain amount of service hours. That is why our service in Algiers go out so quickly. We have very great response times with any of the things that we do. We also are able to do a lot of community service hours because of the reserve deputies. But look, I want folks in law enforcement to be able to make a good living. I want them to be able to provide for their families. We know the cost of living in New Orleans is high, so we want to do whatever we can to make sure that they can provide for their families, and I don't have an issue with that.
All right, Sheriff Hudson, we're going to start this question off with you. Viewers tell us that their top question is transparency.
You talked about controversial details.
Well, that's because we were talking about his office. That's why with the constable's office.
You said the sheriff's office was controversial. Yes. I'd like to be able to say something about that. I don't think that was fair to throw that out there.
No, please go with them. You can respond to controversial details then.
Let's talk about this. The biggest detail is the one we work in the French Quarter every day. Our deputies go out there after working in the jail 12 hours and go out there and support this community. And they walk the beat and they speak to vendors. They speak to our visitors. They speak to people who work there, and they're loved and they're supported. And they do the same things we do in the jail. Deal with those in mental health crisis and an addiction crisis on the streets. That's the real story of OPSO details.
Do you monitor the amount of hours that they work and who works what?
We do. We have a detail and inspection group, which is part of our compliance bureau, which also helps us with the consent judgment, which we are getting very close to complying with.
All right, let's start this question with you. Viewers tell us the number one issue is transparency. What is your plan to let the public and media know within 30 minutes if there's ever a jailbreak or a cyber attack that threatens the community? As you probably know, state law requires a quick time for juvenile response, but when the jailbreak happened, it took hours to alert the public, Sheriff.
Yeah, it took hours for me to find out, number one. But this isn't about transparency. This is about how you communicate. Transparency is the hundreds and thousands of public records requests I've gotten from the media, just fishing for anything. All of them have been answered, and the 200 that were left over from the Gusman administration, I also answered. We answer public records requests. We are transparent. We even put out what goes on in the jail. So that's what happened. This break, the first thing that had to happen is I had to make, when I found out late, was to make sure that we had notified the NOPD through the United States Marshals Task Force, which gets to all of our partner agencies. And the second thing we did was go start talking to the victims, because we talked to as many as we could. And one of them even sounded like maybe the guy was there. So we were worried about her and sent police out to her area. There's more to it than just that. We also had to then lock down the whole jail and make sure everybody who was already out in the streets was accountable for it. So it wasn't quite that simple. I reached out and was accountable to every head of agency about their notification.
So let me ask you, I I asked respectfully a follow-up in about 20 or 30 seconds here. How did you find out hours later if you're the sheriff? Does nobody pick up a phone and say, Sheriff, we had the biggest jailbreak in state history?
It's very similar to what happened in all the other parishes when these breaks happened.
Well, they didn't have one this big, respectfully.
That's not true.
Oh.
The one that happened right after that in Tangipahoa, it was a long time before the sheriff did
But that
find
was
out.
one person,
That
though.
Well, it doesn't matter. There's one person out right now. Everybody else has been captured. But it was still somebody who was a danger to the community, correct? And so that's when people are going to be in trouble. Yeah, they're not in a hurry to tell their boss about that. We make sure that that will not happen again. That first the warden will be notified and me shortly thereafter so that we can respond quickly. And I've already talked to the city about their communication system, which is more efficient for getting it out to larger bodies of people and using that. We use that with the cyber attack to share information as well.
According to State Rep Debbie Zellio, it's going to be required under state law here next session. Mr. Shorty, same question. What would your plan be for more transparency? Can you assure that you would notify the media and public about jailbreaks and cyber attacks within 30 minutes of that happening?
Look, I love WDSU weather. When we've got a storm approaching, we get alerts. The city alerts us. I don't see why we can't do that. That's a very simple fix. There's no explanation for the sheriff not knowing for 7 hours that there was a jailbreak. There's no explanation for not responding and notifying the public and the victims of these crimes for 2.5 hours. That is intolerable. That's just ridiculous. And we can do better. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. In this age of technology, we should have been able to send those photographs, the mug shots of every individual who escaped from the jail immediately to your phone to let you know what was going on. But to not know for 7 hours and to not notify the DA's office, the New Orleans Police Department and all that time, that's unacceptable.
Ms. Woodfork, stand by. I'm going to come to you, Sheriff. In 20 seconds, would you like to respond to that again? I know I asked it, but because he brought it up, if you'd like to address it again.
I think I explained this the first time. Yes, no, I was not properly notified in a timely manner, but once we did get that information, we got it out there. And that included their booking photos and information about them to our partners who went out to look for them. Not true.
All right. Ms. Woodfork, in 60 seconds, what would your plan be when it comes to transparency, alerting the media and public when dangerous situations happen?
Again, transparency is essential to gain trust with our citizens and with our law enforcement partners. And we heard Chief Ann Kirkpatrick say she learned in a meeting, like at 10:30 later. So they weren't notified timely. The sheriff says that they notified the U.S. Marshals Task Force. That's not notifying the heads of your law enforcement partners. That's not notifying the DA's office, the city council, the mayor's administration. And so my plan is to have an alert system and make sure that, it's bigger than this. In order to notify anybody, you have to have the staff there to see that anybody is escaping. You have to have the IT mechanisms there, the cameras, the buzzers on doors, different things like that to make sure. But you need an alert system to alert everyone in this city that 10 inmates have escaped.
Mr. Shorty, we're going to start with you. We're going to go to 30 seconds to get this question in. The jail is under a consent decree. You all are all well aware of that. I've got some notes here and some lists. In 30 seconds, what do you think the most important thing, or one of the most important things in the consent decree is when it comes to the jail in Orleans Parish?
Two things: making sure that you report acts of violence and use of force, and making sure that you provide proper health care to these individuals who are going through mental health care crises. Those are the things. The consent decree, everyone kind of uses it as a boogeyman of why they can't do certain things. It's about reporting. It's about if you have to use violence on an inmate because of a dangerous situation, you report it properly, making sure that there's continuity of medical care for individuals who come to the jail, that they get the medical treatment that they need. That's what the consent decree is about.
Ms. Woodfork, 30 seconds. What are some of the top priorities in the consent decree, according to the monitors, that you would focus on?
Supervision in the mental and medical health unit. Right now, the last report that we've seen, the decrease, they were up at 68% compliance. They are currently in about 43% consent decree compliance, and it's because of mental and medical health unit that they're going to open in 2026. So I don't think the needs of the people who are being housed there are being treated as far as mental and medical health. We have to do a better job of that. We have to make sure the contractor that is there, WellPath, is doing their job.
In 30 seconds, Sheriff, according to the numbers, the substantial compliance went from 100 things in substantial compliance in May of 21. It's down to 70 in 2025. In 30 seconds, what would you focus on if reelected when it comes to getting in compliance?
Well, it started going back before I got into office. I didn't get into office until mid-2022. But here's the biggest thing you have to understand. There were two big parts, medical and mental health, as my opponents have mentioned. We had to get rid of that provider and bring in a new one who's only been here about a year and some change to make sure we could do that better, and it's improving. And then violence in the jail, which you can only deal with when it comes to having more deputies. And I need more pay to have more deputies. But even throughout that, and taking on Mardi Gras and taking on other things, we are still only 5 paragraphs away from having everything in some form of compliance.
All right, so I wish we had more time to talk about a lot of topics. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We're going to give you a chance to make a quick closing statement. 45 seconds. You drew straws. Mr. Shorty, Ms. Woodfork, and Sheriff Hudson is the order we're going in. So, Mr. Shorty, you get 45 seconds to wrap us up.
I'm Edwin Shorty. I'm number 5 on your ballot. I want to go back to what Ms. Woodfork said about slinging mud. It's not slinging mud if it's in your file. 6 times suspended by 4 different chiefs. If anyone else had done that, they would have never been able to rise to the position of chief. The issue is not she overcame that to become chief. The issue is, how does that happen? How do you continue to get promotions with such blemishes on your record? That's the kind of nepotism and cronyism that the citizens of the city of New Orleans are tired of. That doesn't make any sense. And in no other city would that have been allowed. Elect me as your sheriff, and I'll bring honesty back to this office.
Ms. Woodfork, you're up. I know you plan to respond to that, and it's also time to make a closing statement as well, too.
Thank you. What my opponent doesn't understand is that discipline is meant to change behavior. And so 22 years ago, I changed my behavior. And I continued on my job every day for the last 33 years as a New Orleans police officer. And I served this community, and I served it well at every rank, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and ultimately the superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department. My opponent wants to say I wasn't the superintendent, but on December 22nd, 2022, I raised my hand and was sworn in as the superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department. So there is mudslinging and lies. But this is what happens when you have people who with small minds, they talk about people. People with great minds talk about ideas.
All right, thank you all. Sheriff Hudson, you have 45 seconds to wrap us up and let people know why you feel you're the best candidate in this race.
First of all, I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak directly to the people and not have my words changed. It is important for the people to know that this sheriff supports people, culture, and community. Our recidivism rate has gone from about 83% to about 63% because the work we're doing, mental health, addiction, job training, and education work. And we can be the safest city in the state if we continue that. And if we support our deputies like I've done, they'll continue to do the amazing work, underpaid, understaffed, overpopulated, and without the funding that they need to do this work. We're going to continue to support this community at no cost and this culture because that's what makes New Orleans, New Orleans. I'm Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson, number 1 on the ballot, and I'm the People's Sheriff. Thank you.
All right. Sheriff Susan Hudson, the incumbent, Edwin Shorty, and Michelle Woodfork, all Democrats. We do appreciate your time, but we are out of time. You can see this entire debate starting right now. As soon as it ends, it's going to be on our website. We're going to have clips on all of our social media platforms, and we're going to have much more to follow up coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. I'm Travers Mackel. Thank you for watching.